Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Boost Brothers Garage. Today we're going to continue the hybrid stroker build. What's up, Mark? Continue the hybrid stroker build, this time with our shop dogs. Today we are going to install the crankshaft and our crank scraper. Stick around. So, one of the first things we're going to do here, since we already have all the oil tolerances, clearances all measured and ready to go, we have to fit the new crank scraper. And in order to do that, we need to go ahead and put the crankshaft in, which means we're going to go ahead and put some assembly lube on the bearings, get it in, and start the test fitting process of the crank scraper. Building an engine, assembly lube is your friend. Assembly lube on the back of the bearing, not your friend. Okay, so now that we have the crankshaft loosely sitting in the engine, we have the main girdle placed on top of it, all the bearings are in, the assembly lube, but I haven't bolted anything down yet. Because at this point, we need to start test fitting our crank scraper. This crank scraper is an aftermarket unit, and I can't even begin to pronounce the company that makes it, but it's I&J. So basically what this crank scraper is going to do, and I will go ahead and throw a little bit of hardware on there to hold it in place. What this crank scraper is going to do is, as the engine's rotating, the crankshaft's going to come up here and it's going to pass through here, which we will also momentarily be installing this Teflon piece in after we test fit everything and trim it up. And the Teflon is actually going to be right against these counterweights on the crankshaft, and it's going to be scraping, literally scraping the oil off of the counterweights of the crankshaft and keeping that oil down in the oil pan where it should be. These 944 engines are kind of notorious for throwing number 2 rod bearings. There's 1,000 different theories out there of why it happens. One of the best things I read was someone actually put the crank on a flow bench and flow tested the oil, and they found that the number 1 rod journal was getting 50% of the oil flow for all the rod journals for the entire crankshaft. Number 4 was getting 25%, and 2 and 3 were having to share the last 25%. So there's different things people do to try to counteract this. What I did was, we cross-drilled the number 2 and 3 rod journals. So basically on typical crankshaft and this in stock form, you have your oiling hole right here for your connecting rod. On the number 2 and 3, we took that and we had the machine shop drill all the way through it. So you'll actually see a hole on both sides here. And supposedly that modification in and of itself will completely balance out the flow characteristics of the crankshaft. But that's just one theory, so I figured why not try a couple. So we're also going to do this crank scraper, and we are also doing a oil pan baffle kit that will be welded in, and we'll show that a little bit in another video. So we're going to keep at it. We're test fitting this now, and after we just loosely test fit the main piece here, then we're going to have to put the Teflon in, and we're going to have to trim that Teflon so that it meets up against the crankshaft as it should. We'll keep going. So we now have the Teflon portion of the scraper installed. You'll see here the Teflon has been put in between this main carrier and kind of a clamping plate below. So this crank scraper is available 2 different ways. One is just a simple metal piece that you actually clearance the metal down and get it as close to the crank as possible. The Teflon, however, I thought was a much better solution. The Teflon will actually be touching the crankshaft, and the crank will self-clearance it. So you're going to have better tolerances, and I think it'll perform better. So what we have to do now is we're basically going to be rotating the crank and finding where it starts to hit that Teflon. So our first little bit is this guy right here. So what we're gonna have to do is start slowly trimming every single area of the crank and get it where we need to go. So I'm gonna start that now. Done, kind of. We think we did it correctly, pretty sure. We did run into one small problem, but before we get to that, if you'll see, as we rotate the crankshaft here, we now have Teflon in contact with the counterweights. So if you look over here, this guy, as it comes up the upstroke, hits the Teflon, and it'll be wiping the oil right off of there. Now, you may also say, those aren't necessarily the straightest cuts I've ever seen. And you would be correct. However, it's self-clearancing, so it doesn't matter. What does matter, however, and the issue I was talking about is this is 80% of the crank scraper, 90%, whatever. This is the other piece, which goes here, and unfortunately, the manufacturer forgot to send me the little piece of Teflon there. So,
the manufacturer that we can't pronounce.
Yes, this guy. So, unfortunately, we're kind of at a stopping point, and we're not going to be able to get everything bolted in today. I'm going to reach out to the manufacturer tomorrow, have them try to get this to me as soon as possible so we can continue on with this build.
Alright guys, so that's going to do it for tonight's video. Recap real quick, we did most of the crank scraper install. We're waiting for that extra Teflon to come in from the manufacturer. So also put in the crank and the main girdle. So next week we should be file fitting the pistons and finishing the install on the crank scraper, and then moving forward to final assembly of this guy. So in the meantime, you may have noticed on our Instagram, we posted a screenshot of some paint that we got for the Cayman wheels. So right now we're kind of in debate. Figured we'd reach out to you guys and ask you your opinion. Personally, I kind of want to go with the barrels and lips in this bronze color and the main part of the wheel in the matte black finish, and then do a matte clear over both of them. Mike wants to do it opposite of me, the lip, barrel in matte black with the face of the wheel in bronze. And some part of me actually is thinking about just doing the entire wheel in matte black, because I'm planning on doing the treadwear white tire letters on there. So kind of just trying to get an idea of what we think is going to get work best on there. So you guys reach out, let us know in the comments below which way you think it would be better. And remember, that car is Atlas gray, so I think we can't go wrong either way, but maybe you guys can steer us in the right direction. So please comment below, like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.